Hi, everybody, and welcome back to another episode in our Dig Deeper series here on Patreon, where we save a seat at the table with the amazing women and others that we get to interview because they have become part of more. And we are continuing our contributor chat series today after publishing issue 11, Women Who. It is hard to believe that we have published 11 issues now, each of them more spectacular than the last, and I get to sit down with the people that made it happen and talk about the stories behind the stories. So I am joined today by Jordan and Emily, who contributed to the piece Artists Empowerment, and we are going to talk more about that piece. Make sure that you have listened to our Spotify episode as well, where we talk about how it all came together, what the journey through has been like for Jordan in photography and Emily as a professional in the writer sphere. So make sure that you've listened to that as well, because that is an excellent interview. But thank you for being with us here on Patreon. Your support does mean the world. But I'm going to turn it over to our guests, Jordan and Emily. Thank you for joining me again on the podcast.
Thanks for having us. We're excited to be here.
So, for those of our listeners that did not listen to me and didn't listen to the Spotify episode, let us know who you are, what you do, and how you came to be here today.
Yeah, my name is Emily Mellentine. I am a writer and host of Writings from Her Corner, an inclusive women's writing group, as well as a local creative working in communications, marketing, and events, mainly in nonprofits in Indianapolis.
If there's one thing about a woman, she's going to wear a lot of hats.
Yeah, a lot.
Thank you. I'm Connor Christie, and I'm an artist and photographer working in Indianapolis. I specialize in boudoir photography, and my brand is Animal in a Dress, which invites this persona that we've been exploring together through our writings, through our musings, and then Lamina boudoir is the word animal spelled backwards. So
Oh,
if you know, you know.
that's kind of slayful. I love that. So, my first question for you, Jordan, is I would love for you to dig deeper into this concept of animal in a dress. You touched on, how it was a professor in art school that gave you this feedback, but I would love to hear, what does it mean to you and how does it empower you and the women that you have in your studio?
It's in one word, primal.
Mm.
Just this ability to be free and take up space exactly as you are, as an animal would, the notion of gender or what it means to be sexual or feminine or hyper femme or masc. It just is this concept and idea of a persona. And so the animal takes away the gender and it makes it accessible and natural and lovely and primal and all of these things that we kind of get to explore because we're put in these little boxes as we're young and we don't necessarily get to explore primal rage or anger and reclamation in a sense that it's an image in our mind. A lot of the negative self-talk in the mirror can be rectified with an experience like I offer. And so the compliment came in a critique setting. So I had on a costume and was very done up like 50s housewife. And, there was a little chip of my fingernail and things were just slightly off. And I did my performance piece. And then I got to experience another performance piece from another artist. But that equated to blood or red dripping down my, like onto my dress and everything. And he just said, Ben Martikis, my professor at Heron, just said, "You're an animal in a dress," and I've taken it to evolve as a mantra and a way of being and repeating in my mind, I am an animal in a dress. I know the powers that I possess and I choose to activate them daily. And this notion of carving space with our teeth, like doing it because we can, right?
Yeah.
I don't know if that it's too much information or the perfect amount, but it's a taste of how good we can feel if we allow ourselves to be natural and expressive.
Yeah. And you mentioned that it can span kind of a spectrum, as gender is in terms of like hyper feminine or, over on the masculine side. And that had me thinking, I don't know how many boudoir shoots I've really seen that play into the masculine side, but, why not? Again, it's about, the peek behind the curtain and empowerment and sensuality. How many of those shoots have you been able to do? What's that been like?
I've worked with a few men. A lot of them have been, really good friends of mine who we already had an established layer of trust. But a lot of women will bring, their partners to me, and they'll do a duet together. But then I'm like, no, let's work a little bit more with the guy and give you this moment, because you're not always put on this like look good kind of pedestal, right? And
Right.
it does shift the mindset a little bit about what are we looking at in images that we're sexualizing, or what images are we being shown that are, maybe there's more to the story. And so sometimes my images aren't necessarily the sake of being pretty, that's great, but I do want the storytelling aspect there. So a lot of the times, especially if I'm working with trans men or trans women, even, like, there's a full explanation and definition and retelling of this narrative of gender. And so there's always these underlying, how can I hide and reveal not just certain body parts, but certain emotions and certain facial expressions that evoke different experiences of humanity. That's kind of why I say it is transitionary. It's, not just a before and after of hair and makeup and now you feel fine. It's like,
Right.
Before your wedding, and now you're blooming into this deeper version of yourself, or after you've had your first baby, and you get to see, like, oh, wow, like, or hold yourself. I think in the article we even talked about some of the breast cancer survivors that I've worked with, and just seeing on people's faces how you can light up with a new image, because it's not necessarily what you think you see in the mirror, just
Right.
standing there naked. But there's a lot of tricks and magic that we play with photography when it comes to light and shadows, and even how you dress and sheets and curtains and all of that stuff adds different textures and layers to the story. And so animal just comes back to this primal nature, and then boudoir is that private, safe space to explore.
Yeah, that is really cool. And I love the idea. We touched on this in the first episode, but it can be healing. You can figure out different things about yourself. And I think we all struggle with self-perception and knowing, like, A, what we even really look like, and, B, how we think about what we look like. So I think it can definitely be very transformative for people to see themselves in this new lens. And they're powerful and they're sexy, and it's exciting. I love this whole concept, and I love that it got to be featured in Women Who, because it's very exciting.
Thank you again.
So for both of you, this piece, Emily, you decided to write it about a woman who inspired you and that you work with. And Jordan, you obviously work with a lot of amazing women, but who are some of those women in art or in writing that are inspiring you? And how do you feel like their successes are saving a seat at the table for other women?
Yeah, so once again, I'm reading off of what I wrote. Not a speaker.
She has a good answer, though.
So every Wednesday at Writings from Her Corner, I am sat at a table surrounded by other women who courageously share their writings. It's difficult to share your writing. It has taken me a year and a half, and sometimes I still struggle, to speak without my voice shaking and to gain that confidence. I think just showing up to Writings from Her Corner is successful. Creating the art is successful. Sharing it is successful, because enacting that vulnerability creates a space that invites others to do the same. And it's really evident that we all get really inspired by one another. And beyond that, we're able to gain new perspectives through sharing our art that we can carry outside of the group and into your own art and with your own life. And I specifically try to choose prompts that are very introspective and vulnerable, things that you normally wouldn't talk about or share either on the internet or especially with strangers. And so just sharing is my favorite part, and I always say it's the most, it feels like magic, the emotions that we get to, and we all go through things or go through challenges where we think we're alone in it, and everything is universal. When people share their experiences, we're able to connect, like, oh, like a lot of us have been through very similar things, either are going through that or have been through it, and we're able to create those bonds and make those connections. That is just so inspiring to see and watch.
Yeah.